And out front now, the Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. Now, Secretary, the author of this book, Scott McKay, who Speaker Johnson has called a dear friend, writes something else I wanted to read to you. In part, he says, nobody in the administration knows anything about how transportation and logistics work. Something else that was made unmistakably obvious when the supply chain disintegrated in the summer on gay Mayor Pete Buttigieg's watch. Okay. What do you think this obsession is over you and your sexual orientation?
It seems like they just can't think of anything else, right? There's no discussion of what we actually did. I'd be happy to spend all day talking about how in that very same season when they said Christmas was going to be canceled because of supply chain problems, we wound up having an all-time record high in terms of goods moving through our ports. But in the meantime, you have somebody who is taken seriously by none other than the Speaker of the House of the United States, basically suggesting that the reason we had supply chain problems in the rebound from COVID wasn't because of the factories in China shutting down and then sending their ships here all at once. It was because the Secretary of Transportation is married to a guy and not to a woman. They just can't seem to let go of this.
So the Speaker, Mike Johnson, wrote the foreword for the book, as you know. In the book, the author writes, Buttigieg is a rather queer choice for Transportation Secretary, not just because he's a member of the LGBTQ community, and obnoxiously so, and then continues, the author, to write about your 2020 campaign. Quote, Buttigieg ran on the fact that he is openly and obnoxiously gay, the central precept of his campaign being that Christians objecting to his lifestyle were bad at religion, while he is not. All right, that's in the book. And in his foreword to this, Mike Johnson calls the book, and I quote, a valuable and timely contribution. What's your reaction even to that?
Where do you even start with this, right? It's 2023, I guess 2022 when the book came out. And we're still talking about people this way based on who they are, who they love. America, most of America at least, has moved on from this kind of thing. And what's obnoxious is the idea that you can be coming back to race or sexuality as this author does constantly. Not just the way he talks about me, but the way he talks about cabinet colleagues of mine, all kinds of things that mostly seem to come back to an obsession with identity, with either who you're married to or what your race is, and very little, certainly very little of use about how to make this country a better place.
So Andrew Kaczynski, you just heard him play what Speaker Johnson said last year about the book, obviously glowing praise, including that he said that he wrote the foreword because he believed in the product and he endorsed the work. He said, quote, I love the book. All right. Today, though, in light of all these things and these things that we are reading to you, K-File calls a spokesperson for the Speaker, Johnson, and that person says, quote, the Speaker had never read the passages highlighted in the CNN story, which he strongly disagrees with. He wrote the foreword as a favor to a friend, supportive of the general theme of the book, but not as an endorsement of all the opinions expressed. What do you say to that? He's saying he never saw these phrases I just read you.
Pretty hard to believe. I mean, look, I've often been called to write a blurb for a book. He didn't just do that. He didn't just put a quote on the back of it. He wrote a foreword that is in the book, then had this guy on his podcast, and then went out of his way to say things associating himself both with the author and with the book. So that just doesn't pass the smell test.
And also, what is in here is not inconsistent with things that Johnson himself has said publicly, right? It's not the first time, far from that he's promoted anti-LGBTQ views. He's done it for decades, as K-File discovered. Just listen to this, Secretary.
It's time for an honest conversation about homosexuality. There's freedom to change if you want to. Homosexual behavior is something you do. It's not something that you are.
1 in 4 high school students identifies as something other than straight. We're losing the country.
So those are all things he said. He wrote, as you know, 2004, multiple editorials against same-sex marriage, including one, Secretary, where he says experts project that homosexual marriage is the dark harbinger of chaos and sexual anarchy that could doom even the strongest republic. He talks about it a lot.
He seems fixated on it. And it's really troubling for millions of Americans, including me and my husband. And, this is, again, not just some fringe radical member of Congress, although I would argue these positions are certainly radical.
Yeah.
It's the Speaker of the House, and he is second in line for the American presidency.
Well, I mean, it is pretty incredible to see some of this and to see those editorials. And while I think it's important that you come out and speak about it, I, of course, share what maybe you didn't say, but perhaps you feel that it's incredibly frustrating that you would even have to be doing so at this time. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.